There's some bad news brewing for the 49ers, and it'll likely be finalized after the NFL draft. The fact that Jauan Jennings has yet to sign elsewhere will likely mean that the 49ers lose a potential 2027 draft pick. I will explain. First, take a look at how many compensatory selections the 49ers have gotten since John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan took over in 2017. 28, the most in the entire NFL. Well, the 49ers, I think, were planning on Jauan Jennings leaving the team this offseason based on other moves that they've made. They signed Mike Evans. They signed Christian Kirk. But I think that they were planning for Jauan to sign elsewhere before the compensatory pick deadline, which is the Monday after the NFL draft. This is the 49ers comp pick formula for this season. Players added and players lost. You can see compensatory free agents lost on the left side, CFAs. CFAs gained on the right side. Well, the NFL is going to match up both of those sides, and one side cancels out the other. If you have more departures than you have players gained, factoring into the compensatory formula, you stand to earn a compensatory draft pick. The 49ers' losses of Kendrick Bourne, Jordan Elliott, and Spencer Burford project to essentially cancel out the additions of Adarian Lowe, Christian Kirk, and Mike Evans. Non-compensatory free agents, guys who didn't count into the formula, Sky Moore and Brett Toth. Those guys are both at $2.5 million in the APY, average per year. Jauan Jennings would have certainly qualified as a compensatory free agent, given how much money he's due to make, even if it was on the lower end of expectations, even if it was for less than $10 million, because it would be above $2.5 million. It would be in the upper range, especially relative to players like Kendrick Bourne and Adarian Lowe here. The problem is, for a player to qualify for the compensatory formula, they have to sign with another team by the Monday after the draft. And I think that it's very clear at this point that Jauan Jennings is just waiting out the NFL draft to see where his best opportunity will be. There are other players in this league who are waiting out the NFL draft to see where their best opportunities will be. The 49ers actually might be interested in some of them. Joey Bosa, who just got married this past weekend, congratulations to him, remains a free agent. Somebody like Joel Bitonio remains a free agent. He's also determining if he's going to retire or not, but a lot of that might be contingent on what happens during the draft, and that's going to open up potential opportunities or close potential opportunities for Joel Bitonio, so maybe it influences his decision regarding whether or not to retire. All told right now, to set the table for this weekend, the 49ers currently have 15 open roster spots on the 90-man. If Brandon Aiyuk leaves the 49ers, if they cut him after this draft, and I'll explain why that might be possible, San Francisco will have 16 open roster spots. And that leads us to the Aiyuk question.
Yeah, I've had some discussions. Do I think it's a high probability? Likely no. But is there a chance? Yeah, I think there's a chance. And I think, as for that whole dialogue, I think I was candid with you guys in saying at the end of the season that he's likely played his last snap for us. We all are in concert on where we're going with Brandon. I do think, at league meetings, I talked to you guys. I thought it would have been irresponsible not to give it through league meetings, because there's various inflection points where a lot of deals at least start to get talked about. The league meetings is a great opportunity because everyone in the league is there. The draft is another opportunity because a lot of things happen on draft week. So I think we'll see it through here. We'll focus on our draft. If something happens there, great. If not, we'll reevaluate it. He's still a member of this roster right now, and we'll treat him as such.
The 49ers would have been irresponsible to let Brandon Aiyuk go before the NFL owners meetings and before the NFL draft, because those are two inflection points where trade activity does happen. But he said that if Aiyuk is not traded during this draft, and I don't think he expects him to be traded during this draft, the 49ers will reevaluate their stance with him. Well, that means that there's finally an opportunity cost on its way for holding on to Brandon Aiyuk. It's not a monetary one. I've talked a lot about the fact that Brandon Aiyuk does not due any money until he shows up, and not until the very end of August or the start of September. But there's an opportunity cost when it comes to roster spots. He currently has taken up one of the 49ers' 90 roster spots. So if San Francisco fills up its roster with its draft class, currently 6 picks, the 49ers own, and with some undrafted free agents, and perhaps even with some veterans who are still waiting as icing on the cake, if the 49ers get up to spot 89 and there's the chance to get one more player, even if it is a lottery ticket, and even if it is an undrafted rookie, well, the 49ers will have to decide, is it more worth it to use that roster spot on a player who's going to be in OTAs, who's going to have a chance to prove himself, who might be a diamond in the rough? I mean, the evaluation process in the NFL is far from a perfect thing. Remember that Brock Purdy turned into one of the best quarterbacks in the entire league from pick number 262. 49ers will have to determine if it is more valuable to use a roster spot on a player like that, or to use it just to carry Brandon Aiyuk in the off chance that they can trade him at some point. And, you know, the whole Brandon Aiyuk situation is unusual. It's weird. We don't even know if he's healthy based on what I asked Jed York at the NFL owners meetings. I asked him, is Brandon healthy? And he said, I don't know. All of that is somewhere beyond our level of knowledge to know exactly what's going on. The 49ers themselves are going to have to reevaluate this situation if he doesn't get traded now, and ask themselves how much that roster spot really means. And a lot of that might depend on who's out there, who they can sign. They could take it on a player-by-player basis, because unless they have somebody that they like to fill that 90th and final spot, and right now, again, they still have 15 spots to fill, so it's not an imminent thing right now. There still is room. But unless they have somebody that they really like, there is no rush to jettison Brandon Aiyuk. That rush, though, might start to come after this NFL draft, which is another inflection point. Now, speaking of the draft, the 49ers can either trade up, they can trade down, they can stay put. There's so much bluster in every which direction right now. People trying to pretend like they know what the 49ers might do. Hint, you don't. Just to help you out, the draft is famously unpredictable. John Lynch said a little bit of everything during his pre-draft press conference on Monday. He indicated that if we really like somebody, we could package even future picks to trade up. I think that was implied in some of the words that he said. And then he also said, well, you know, it'd be nice to have more picks, and I would agree, because they only have 6 and they still have 15 roster spots. Why not amass more darts to throw up at the board? Because that's what it is. It's a game of probability in the NFL draft. The more picks you have, the more likely you are to be successful. Obviously, that would be a byproduct of trading down. 49ers could also, of course, stay put in this draft. They have been movers and shakers in the NFL draft. Since taking over, John Lynch has executed 16 pick-for-pick trades, including 6 trade downs. The biggest trade down for the 49ers was in 2017, right when Lynch took over. They moved down from number 2 to number 3. They actually gained quite a bit of value with that trade. They traded 1 pick away, number 2, and they ended up getting 4 picks in return. 367, 111, and the number 70 pick in the next season. As you can see, it was plus value for the 49ers. Green, and this is from SF Data Niners, a really good analytics account to follow, but green in the color column here is good. Anything that's red is not good. In 2021, the 49ers traded up for Trey Lance, and you could see that one is in the dark red. They lost some value moving up from 12 to 3. You typically do have to overpay, just like the Bears overpaid the 49ers in 2017 to ultimately draft Mitch Trubisky. That didn't work out for Chicago. In 2021, didn't work out for the 49ers to trade up and draft Trey Lance. So no more trades up into the top 5 for quarterbacks. Good thing is that the 49ers got pick number 262 in 2022. and that was used on Brock Purdy. Now, speaking of pick number 262, that was a compensatory pick. So why don't we bring this back to the top of the show? Comp picks matter. So anything that you could have potentially gotten with Jauan Jennings, and I think that the 49ers could have gotten a 6th or a 7th rounder. He could have really tilted this formula and tilted the scales in the favor of the 49ers getting at least a low-round compensatory pick. You can't just throw the loss of that away as nothing because, well, Brock Purdy was the very last pick of the draft in 2022. That was a comp pick that the 49ers got because CJ Beathard's departure to Jacksonville on a chart just like this one tilted the scales toward the 49ers to get the very final pick of the 7th round. They were coming off of a 2021 season in which they finished in the NFC Championship game, lost to the Rams in 2021, entered that year in 2022 with the compensatory departure of CJ Beathard and picked Brock Purdy himself. That one of the 28, the league leading 28 compensatory selections that the 49ers have had ever since Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have taken over. And I think that a lot of what you do has to be a little steered, at least by the process of, I think, tactically letting some guys go, being careful about how much you're paying players. You can't just go overpay for everybody because that's going to hurt you in the compensatory formula. APY's average per year is factored into this. Remember that the most sustainable way to build a football team is through the draft. The best way to build through the draft is to have a lot of picks. Well, a good way to manufacture picks is through the compensatory process. And the 49ers have had some bad picks over the decade of Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, but they've also had some very good ones. And it just so happens that a lot of the really good ones have come in the later rounds. Compensatory picks are awarded from the end of the 3rd round all the way to the end of the 7th. The best pick in 49ers history, when you look at just value that you're getting off of it versus the round, has been Brock Purdy late in the 7th round at the very end of the draft. That was a comp pick. That was a selection that the 49ers manufactured. They're able to get a quarterback who played an all-pro level on his rookie deal, continues to play at an all-pro level now, even after he's taken a discount in contract negotiations with the 49ers. But you could see the top comp pick teams of the past 10 years, a lot of good teams on this list. The 49ers, the Rams, Cowboys, not so much, but at least they play the comp pick formula well. Baltimore, Kansas City, Green Bay, New England, Philadelphia. I mean, out of the top 7, the teams that have earned 15 or more comp picks over the course of the past 10 years, you have a lot of perennial playoff contenders. But the 49ers are not going to be in that mix in 2027 in all likelihood. I think it was dependent on Jauan Jennings signing elsewhere for San Francisco. 2027, by the way, is projected to be a strong NFL draft, and the 49ers have 7 picks in it. It is not a clean 7 picks. Through 5 rounds it is. 49ers have their own selections, round 1, round 2, round 3, round 4, and round 5. They don't have a 6th rounder as we speak right now because they had a pick swap with the Kansas City Chiefs to get Sky Moore, who has since left to the Green Bay Packers. So the 49ers 6 in 2027 went to Kansas City. Kansas City's 7 went to San Francisco, meaning the 49ers have 2 7th round picks. Now, more trades can happen. 2027, though, is at least, and a lot can change between now and then. It's still a full year away, but 2027 is considered to feature a stronger draft in the prospect evaluation than 2026. So picks there actually might be quite valuable given the fact that the 49ers themselves, John Lynch said the other day, doesn't have as many first round draft grades given out this year as he did in 2025. So it just has worsened at the very top. Now the 49ers are saying that edge, offensive line, and wide receiver are probably the 3 strongest positions in this draft class. And it just so happens that those are the 49ers' biggest immediate needs. And yes, wide receiver is a big immediate need, considering the fact that everything falls off of a cliff roster-wise in 2027, and you don't have adequate depth as it stands of proven players if any of the top line older guys do get hurt. So the 49ers need to fortify that all-important receiver room. Follow the underperformance of this team. They have struggled in separation. They need to make that better. Edge rusher, obviously, they've struggled when it comes to sacks. They were last in the league last year with only 20 sacks. They need to get better. And then offensive line, well, I think that the potential need is obvious. They've struggled at the guard positions. Last year it was left guard, and you need somebody next to Trent Williams, who's going to be 38 years old. And yes, you can think of a future replacement plan for Trent Williams. If he can kill two birds with one stone, great. I just think that it's mathematically tough to do that. Anyway, the way to satisfy your goals, or at least to maximize your chances of satisfying your goals, is to throw as many darts at the wall as possible. That means maximizing picks, and bad news brewing for the 49ers. They probably won't get a 2027 pick for the departure of Jauan Jennings. Hell, maybe he's not going to command hardly anything at all. Maybe the 49ers turn around later this offseason and bring Jauan back, especially if there are some injury issues. That still is unlikely, but the fact that he'd remained unsigned this long, I think, was viewed as unlikely entering free agency. And now it is set to cost the 49ers as they enter 2026 draft season. It's not going to cost them in 2026 picks, but it's still something to keep in mind in terms of big picture strategy.